Is it working on your end?
I don't know. Does it say this call is being recorded on yours?
Yes.
Okay. It looks like mine's recording too, so the little red button
Okay.
is now. Okay, cool. So now we're both recording it.
All right. Hopefully we don't have any problems. So, Dr. Travis, if you're watching this is our second time around. So we lost our file yesterday. So,
Which is why it's late.
which is why it's late. So hopefully, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to tell my dog she could eat. That's really funny. The poor thing's been sitting there for like half an hour. Oh my gosh, sorry.
She won't
I
eat
make her
until you
wait.
tell her to?
Yeah, I
Oh,
make her
that's
wait for her
awesome.
food, and I just realized she's been sitting there this whole time. Sorry, dog. Okay, anyway. So we
Will
lost the
she
file,
eventually
so
go
we're
eat it?
redoing it. She apparently will. she just she just went to eat it. That's really funny. I feel bad. So anyway, this is our second time around, and hopefully we can be as, I feel like yesterday we were very on it, but it's late now, and hopefully we can be
Yeah,
as articulate as we were yesterday.
I hope so.
All right, my dear. So the first question was, okay, right. So we're talking about Angel, and the first question is, what are the three most important dimensions or relevant dimensions in this video?
I know one that I said yesterday was myths, because I think that Angel and especially his dad have a lot of myths surrounding his behavior and his person rather than just his actions. Like he is a bad kid, and that's a pattern that they've gotten themselves into, that he's the bad kid and then Angel is tired of him. So rather than seeing him as his actions, as his son, he's seeing him as this person that he's constructed.
I agree. I think that one that I had mentioned yesterday was the communication styles. They had a lot of communication barriers happening.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the son was not even really communicating, and then the father was being, very disparaging and angry.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of communication barriers there.
Yeah.
Another one that I had mentioned yesterday was, sorry, go ahead.
He was very disengaged too. The father.
That was exactly what I was just going to say.
Oh, you did. Sorry.
No, that's good. We're on the same page. Exactly. He was disengaged to the point where he got up and left the meeting before it was even over. He was feeling like, I'm done with you. I want you to join me. I don't want to deal with you anymore, and I'm out of this meeting. So he definitely was disengaged.
Absolutely.
So number 2 is, what is our general assessment of microsystem dynamics?
I think we talked about how he has, or he seemingly has, some support at school with the teacher or counselor, or whatever she was, the woman, that she's, definitely seems like they have a somewhat of a rapport. And then in his home life, he has his dad, who seems to be just angry with him a lot. And then he has his dad's girlfriend, which they briefly mentioned that she got in the middle of them. So I don't know if she's helpful in that dynamic, or if she's just, kind of incites the dad more than she actually helps with communication.
Right, and I think that we also were talking about the fact that there are a lot of unknowns. Like, we don't really know their family context. We don't know the heritage of either individual, or how much of a role that plays or does not play in their context. I think we were seeing a lot of the other stuff seems like it definitely has issues attached, like the boundaries, power structure, decision-making process, goals. I mean, pretty much it seemed like everything had some issues there, and I think for me, a lot of it had to boil down to the fact that they weren't communicating. And it seems that I didn't get any indication that they've been able to communicate.
Right, I agree.
Sorry, now my dog's going completely spastic. The family life cycle, I don't know that was really an issue, because it didn't seem like anybody was in a big transitional period right at that time.
Although he is trying to finish school, so hopefully if his dad will help him with his plan if he is able to get to that process. He said that he wanted to go to school. So that kind of, it's like he's in waiting. He's like in holding for a transitional period, because he's not quite there yet, and he needs his dad, but his dad to get him to that plan that he wants of graduating school and going to college. He kind of needs his dad at this point, but his dad is not interested at all in his plan, So he's like a pre-transitional state.
Yes, which I think ties into the family decision-making process in the fact that his father was clearly making all the decisions and basically gave Angel no voice, and was just, he was at the top of the power structure, he was the top of the decision tree, and had just basically, like you said, made up the myth in his mind of what Angel is and what his limitations are and what his abilities are, and that was that, and his word was final.
Yeah, he's not giving him a chance to prove himself.
Well, the next question is, how did the social worker handle the present issues?
I don't think the social worker handled anything. I mean, the way that he allowed the dad to be so derogatory to the son and calling him names, and I think at one point he said, let's stay focused, but other than that, he really just allowed this negative interaction, and he really didn't seem like he tried to stop it. He didn't go after the dad. He didn't try to stop him when he was walking out. And I think that's really sad, because it's reinforcing to Angel that his dad can treat him that way,
Well, and even when he first walked in, I got the impression either he was late or he had left the meeting in the middle of the meeting and come back. And then, exactly like you said, I think he only actually, to my recollection, only offered 2 statements throughout the whole thing, maybe 3. Yeah. And one of them, like you said, one of them was he initially told him to try to be more constructive in his speech, but then he let him get even more out of control with his derogatory language, and didn't say anything. And exactly, he didn't try to interrupt him to leave. He never addressed, to my recollection, he never addressed anything to Angel at all. He addressed, when he said he does have a plan, he was talking about him in third person. He was speaking to either
he wasn't even there.
Right, he wasn't even speaking to Angel. He wasn't asking Angel's thoughts or opinions or anything. He just sat there and didn't participate at all.
I think yesterday you mentioned about how the social worker could have done an on-the-spot intervention.
Yeah, so the next question is, how could it have been better? And exactly, that was my first step, if it had been me, would have been an on-the-spot intervention, because they were in a, what do you call it again, when they're the communication, it's dead-end communication, something like that.
Yeah.
Where they obviously were not going to be able to resolve the issue right then. There was no solution at the end of this tunnel. It was just a blind tunnel. And the father was being really awful and derogatory to his son. And had I been there, I would have wanted to, immediately interrupted it and called attention, and talked to the father about the importance of positive communication and the destructiveness of the kind of communication that he'd been using up until then.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think that they've gotten into a really negative, family communication pattern, and that should have been addressed immediately. Before you can even start to talk about plans, you have to address the communication, and that wasn't done. I think that was a big failure on the part of the social worker in that situation.
Yeah, I think right at that point, I would have looked at the destructiveness of the communication, and then I would have tried to move it to the meta-communication that we had talked about yesterday, the communication about the communication. Because I think the key thing between those two at this point in time is just to get them interacting, to try to get that disengagement removed and get them back to where they can talk to each other again. And I think that would be the primary goal, would just be to get them communicating.
I agree with you.
And one of those would be, just like I said, discussing the vital role of positive feedback and expressing that to his father and why that needs to happen.
And recognizing Angel's strengths rather than just what he's done wrong and what he's done wrong. Recognizing that he does have, giving him that positive feedback and recognizing that he does have strengths. And it's good that he has a plan. And just giving him something other than aggression. would have been really
Exactly.
helpful
Well,
in that situation.
sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And just trying to get him to communicate. I think that, you know, another thing that would have been important for the social worker to do is to make sure that he's dividing attention equally between the people present. Or I'm not sure about, like I said, the teacher, I'm really fuzzy as to what her role was there, but to at least divide attention between Angel and his father, and make sure that he's not saying specifically to the father, like, you know, you had very destructive communication. You need to work on positive feedback. But to say to both of them, you know, this is what, you know, non-useful or whatever the word would be communication looks like, and this is how we want to move forward from here on out. And I think something for the father would be focus on positive communication, and something that for the son would be, you need to communicate with us. Tell us what you think. Tell us how you feel. And then allowing space in the room for that to happen.
Absolutely. Because even had he wanted to communicate, he couldn't get a word in edgewise, you know? So, yeah. Go ahead.
And like we were talking about yesterday when they were in the hallway and the teacher, we were saying that was a strength that he had that relationship at school, but then, you know, obviously she was also contributing to some degree to the problem, because she did the same thing where she didn't let him speak when they were out in the hallway.
She was doing the stacking questions.
Exactly. And she had the good empathetic skill.
Yeah. But she wasn't letting him have a chance to respond.
No. So nobody in that whole entire interaction ever let him voice his opinion or his thoughts at all.
Yeah.
My feeling is that after they start the communication stuff, that's when they can begin to mutually work on goals. You know, that shouldn't have been the first thing to happen. That should have been the last thing.
Right. I agree. And in that kind of environment, that was definitely not the situation to start to address goals. There's a lot of foundation work to be done with them before they can even think about that, about moving forward.
Yeah.
Is that the last question?
Those are all the questions. Oh, well, we did mention the family context stuff. We weren't sure if there were ethnic minority reality issues here. Yeah. Right. Let's see, is there anything else?
And we don't know what's going on with the mother either. If she's in the picture, if she's not, if she can be any kind of ally for him. I get the opinion that she wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did too. We don't really know anything about their context at all. Let's see.
So we're at 12 minutes. I think we did pretty good this time.
All right. Yeah, we kept it under half an hour or whatever.
I think we kind of rambled last time.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready to stop recording?
Yes.